The Galactic Council loomed as an unchallenged authority in the universe, a vast assembly of powerful species that ruled over countless worlds. They had existed for millennia, establishing dominance through sheer technological superiority and numbers. Their power was unmatched, and their word was law. Tributes were demanded from every planet under their control, a show of loyalty, submission, and resources that kept the mighty engine of the Council running smoothly. It wasn't tyranny, at least not in the eyes of the Council. It was the natural order. Lesser species paid tribute, and the Council ruled. Among these planets was Earth, a world the Council had only recently encountered. Compared to the elder races that comprised the Council, humanity was young, insignificant, and technologically backward. Earth had only just begun its exploration of the stars when the Council took notice. When they did not see a threat or a partner, just another planet to be brought into the fold. Humanity, as far as the Council was concerned, would fall in line like all the others. Earth had been annexed without bloodshed, with the Council expecting easy compliance. The Council's superiority in technology and military strength was beyond question, so humanity's future seemed set. The tribute demand came as it always did, cold, clinical, and arrogant. A single vessel from the Council, sleek and formidable, arrived in Earth's orbit, broadcasting its intentions across the planet. The terms were simple: Earth would offer up its resources, manpower, and technologies to serve the Council's needs. Failure to comply would result in consequences that had been made painfully clear to other worlds: isolation, sanctions, or in extreme cases, annihilation. The message was direct, final. Earth's response was awaited with little concern from the Council. After all, what could a young, fragile species like humanity possibly do? The Council representative who delivered the message was a Scilanthian, a species known for their rigid demeanor and unshakable belief in the Council's supremacy. The Scilanthian envoy descended upon the United Nations Assembly, their appearance towering and imposing. Their words were filled with the confidence of a being that had delivered this same message countless times before, with planets far more powerful than Earth submitting without question. To them, humanity's response would be nothing more than a formality, a nod to their inevitable submission. The envoy barely paid attention as Earth's leaders gathered in the assembly hall. The humans were calm, almost too calm, but the envoy dismissed it as fear manifesting in stillness. What the envoy and the Council could not have anticipated was the quiet confidence that radiated from Earth's leadership. Humanity had a history of defying the odds, of surviving in the face of insurmountable challenges. In their long history, they had fought their own wars, faced their own disasters, and pulled themselves back from the brink of extinction more than once. But this history was unknown to the Galactic Council. To them, humanity was a blank page in the grand story of the galaxy, one that would soon be written with compliance and tribute. As the Council's envoy spoke of Earth's obligation, the leaders of humanity exchanged brief, knowing glances. There was no rush, no anxiety, only silent understanding. The envoy mistook this for intimidation, never once considering that Earth had anything other than submission in mind. When the speech concluded, the Scilanthian stood waiting for Earth's response, expecting the usual: the agreement to comply, the outlining of what resources would be handed over, perhaps even a display of gratitude for being allowed to exist under the Council's protection. But what came instead was a moment of silence. Earth's leaders, seated with dignified composure, didn't rush to answer. There was no frantic negotiating or pleading for leniency. The Council's envoy, momentarily thrown off by the stillness, finally spoke again, this time more insistently. The demand had been made, and the time for Earth's compliance was now. Still, humanity did not respond in haste. A single voice broke the silence, the representative of Earth calmly addressing the envoy. The exact words were careful, almost diplomatic, but what they communicated was something far different from what the Council had ever encountered. Earth's leaders, it seemed, were not cowed by the Council's power. There was no begging for more time, no promises of excessive tribute in hopes of avoiding punishment. Instead, humanity spoke with clarity and conviction, though the precise meaning behind their words remained just out of the envoy's reach. The Azalanthian envoy, increasingly unsettled, left Earth with a message to return to the Council, a message that would send shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council had expected Earth to fall in line, but the quiet, resolute defiance they had encountered was something they were unprepared for. Humanity had been given an ultimatum, and though their response was not yet clear, one thing was certain: Earth would not answer as the Council had expected. Humanity's journey through history had always been defined by struggle. Long before the stars became accessible, long before they were noticed by any species outside their own planet, they had faced adversity at every turn. Earth's history was a chronicle of wars, disasters, and conflicts, all of which shaped the human spirit into something both resilient and unyielding. It was not by choice but by necessity that humanity developed a tenacity that the Galactic Council would soon come to understand. Early in their development, humans faced challenges that should have ended them. They fought amongst themselves, often to the brink of extinction. Wars ravaged their civilizations, pitting nation against nation, ideology against ideology against ideology. Great empires rose and fell, leaving behind nothing but ruins and lessons for those who survived. Famine, disease, and natural disasters further tested their resolve. Each catastrophe could have wiped them out, but humanity endured. For every city destroyed, another was built. For every plague that swept through their lands, humans found a way to survive. This history of conflict and survival became the foundation upon which their identity was built. When the Galactic Council first encountered Earth, they saw only the surface of species that had barely mastered interstellar travel, with primitive technologies compared to the galactic standard. What they did not see was the centuries of struggle that had made humanity adaptive, resourceful, and fiercely independent. To the Council, humanity was just another race to be brought into the fold, their potential to be harnessed for the greater good of the galaxy. But humanity had never thrived through submission. From their very beginnings, they had fought for survival, and in doing so, they had learned to push back against forces that sought to dominate them. After their first contact with the Council, Earth entered a period of rapid growth, fueled by the sudden access to alien technology. Within a few short decades, humanity leaped forward, mastering new sciences and pushing the limits of what had been thought possible. They learned faster than the Council anticipated, developing technologies that closed the gap between Earth and the more advanced races. Space travel became commonplace, and humanity extended its reach beyond the solar system. But while their technology evolved, their spirit remained rooted in the lessons of their past. Earth had no intention of becoming just another vassal to the Council's demands. The Council, in their arrogance, believed that humanity's progress was the result of their benevolence. After all, it was only through the Council's existence that Earth had access to the stars, to the knowledge that had allowed them to advance so quickly. But the truth was that humanity had always been a species that thrived under pressure. The greater the challenge, the more they adapted. What the Council didn't realize was that their demand for tribute would awaken a defiance in humanity that had been forged through centuries of struggle and war. At the heart of this defiance was a deeply ingrained sense of freedom and independence. Human philosophy, shaped by millennia of conflict, was built on the ideas of autonomy, self-determination, and resistance to tyranny. Unlike many of the Council's member species, humanity did not easily bend to external authority. The idea of submitting to a distant power, no matter how vast or powerful, was antithetical to everything they had become. Throughout their history, whenever humanity had been faced with overwhelming odds, they did not yield, they fought back. As the Council's tribute demand loomed, Earth's leadership quietly prepared. There was no panic, no rush to appease their would-be overlords. Behind closed doors, discussions were held about how best to respond. Earth had grown strong in ways the Council had not anticipated. Their technology was advanced, their military forces were formidable, and perhaps most importantly, their unity as a species had never been stronger. But their greatest weapon was not one of technology or strategy, it was their unshakable resolve. Humanity's leaders understood the stakes. They knew that, by refusing to comply with the Council's demands, they would be putting their entire species at risk. The Council's history was filled with examples of planets that had been punished for insubordination. But Earth's history was filled with something else entirely, examples of how humans rose from the ashes of destruction, stronger and more determined than before. To the Council, humanity was a small, isolated world with little to offer. But to the humans, they were the product of generations of survival, conflict, and perseverance. They were not just another species to be conquered. As the deadline for the Council's demand approached, the people of Earth went about their lives as usual. There was no public outcry, no great fear of what was to come. Many did not even know the details of the tribute demand, and those who did were not concerned. Earth had seen far worse threats in its time. The message from the Council was clear, but humanity's answer was already decided long before it was delivered. Deep within the halls of power, Earth's leaders finalized their plan. It wasn't a complicated strategy involving military maneuvers or diplomatic subterfuge. Instead, it was a simple, direct response that would send a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would not bow. They would not submit to the Galactic Council's demand for tribute, not because they were incapable of paying, but because it was not in their nature to kneel before any authority that sought to dominate them. The discussions among Earth's leaders were filled with a quiet confidence. They knew what the Council expected: a groveling plea for more time or a desperate offer to provide resources in exchange for leniency. But humanity would give the Council neither. They had prepared for this moment for decades, ever since their first contact with the galactic community. Their response would be swift, calculated, and unforgettable. In the end, the question was never about whether humanity could meet the Council's demand. The resources were there, the technology was available, and the manpower was abundant. But Earth's leaders understood something far more important. This was not just a demand for tribute, it was a test of humanity's place in the galaxy. Would they submit like so many others before them, or would they stand tall and declare their independence? The answer was clear to anyone who knew the history of humanity. For as long as they had existed, they had fought against overwhelming odds, and they had always found a way to win. As the final moments of preparation passed, Earth's leadership stood ready to deliver their answer. They knew the Council would not expect what was to come, but they also knew that their message would resonate far beyond the confines of the Council's chambers. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not a species to be trifled with. The Galactic Council's Grand Hall was a place of order, power, and arrogance. It was here, beneath towering arches and glowing banners of a dozen species, that the Council had presided over the fate of entire worlds. Today, they gathered with a simple expectation: Earth would submit. Seated around a vast circular table were representatives from some of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, species that had conquered stars, shaped planets, and subjugated lesser races. For them, Earth was just another small world that had, until recently, been beneath their notice. Yet the tribute demand had been sent, and today was the day the humans were to answer. The Council chamber was filled with an air of casual expectation. They had seen this scenario play out countless times before. A new species, brought into the fold, always came to the same conclusion: resist, and they would be crushed. The tribute demands were never excessive, never unreasonable, just enough to remind every planet of its place in the hierarchy. It was a system that had worked for millennia, and Earth would be no different. The Azylanthian envoy, who had delivered the demand to Earth, stood at the center of the chamber, their elongated forms shimmering in the ambient light. They had returned from Earth a week ago, expecting to deliver news of humanity's compliance, and now awaited the official response. The Council's members barely paid attention as the session opened, their focus already on the next items on the agenda. To them, Earth's submission was a foregone conclusion, a mere formality. The holographic screen flickered to life, revealing the image of Earth's representative, a man who appeared calm and composed despite the magnitude of the moment. He stood in a simple room, nothing grand or imposing behind him. There was no pomp, no ceremonial attire, no grandiose show of respect to the Council's power. His plainness was unsettling in a way that the Council's members could not quite place. Perhaps it was the lack of fear they expected to see in his eyes, or perhaps it was the strange calmness that hung in the air as he prepared to speak. The Council waited for Earth's tribute to offer the materials they would send, the technologies they would share, the resources they would hand over to avoid the Council's wrath. The Azalanthian envoy stepped forward, ready to accept Earth's submission. But as the representative of humanity began to speak, his words were not what anyone expected. "We have considered your demand for tribute," he said, his voice steady and measured. "And our answer is simple." The council members leaned forward slightly. This was the moment where the humans would acknowledge their place in the galactic order. This was the moment where Earth would join the ranks of subjugated planets, like so many before them. The human representative paused for a moment, then spoke a single word, his voice clear, unwavering. No, the word hung in the air like a shock wave. For a moment there was nothing but stunned silence. The vast chamber seemed frozen, the gathered representatives unable to comprehend what they had just heard. The Azylanthian envoy, who had been preparing to formally acknowledge Earth's compliance, stumbled backward, their expression a mix of confusion and disbelief. Had they misheard? No, the voice of a council member, a hulking creature from the planet Yalthor, rumbled across the chamber. "What do you mean? No." Earth's representative didn't flinch. His gaze remained steady, his posture unchanging. "We will not submit to your demand for tribute," he repeated. "Earth does not recognize your authority to make such demands. We will not comply." The silence that followed was different this time. It was heavier, more dangerous. The Council had not faced such defiance in generations, and certainly not from a species as young and supposedly insignificant as humanity. Across the chamber, Council members exchanged incredulous glances. Some were visibly angry, their features hardening as they processed the audacity of the humans. Others remained still, eyes narrowed, trying to gauge the meaning behind this unexpected defiance. The Azylanthian envoy, recovering from their shock, attempted to speak, their voice shaking with barely contained outrage. Your species cannot possibly comprehend the consequences of refusing the Council's demands. You risk total annihilation. Do you think your primitive world can stand against the might of the Galactic Council?" Earth's representative met the envoy's gaze, calm and unmoved. "We are well aware of the risks," he said simply. "But we will not be bullied into submission. We are prepared to defend our sovereignty." Outrage erupted across the chamber. Several council members stood, voices raised in anger. The idea that a species as insignificant as humanity would refuse the council was an affront to everything they believed. Threats were made openly, warnings of fleets that could crush Earth in an instant, of sanctions that could starve the planet into submission. The Azylanthian envoy, their voice rising in fury, demanded that Earth reconsider before it was too late. But the human representative did not falter. "If you believe you can force us to comply, then you are welcome to try," he said, his tone never shifting from calm certainty. "But know this: humanity will never bow to tyranny, no matter how vast or powerful. We will stand, and if you come for us, you will find that we are not as weak as you think." The council chamber erupted into chaos. Some members called for immediate action, military retaliation, the deployment of fleets to bring Earth to its knees. Others, more cautious, warned that such a move could escalate tensions further. But amidst the turmoil, a few voices, quieter and more thoughtful, began to question whether humanity's defiance was born of something more than simple arrogance. Had Earth developed more advanced defenses than the Council realized? Was their refusal not just an act of pride, but a calculated gamble? As the Council's leaders debated amongst themselves, Earth's representative remained on the screen, a silent reminder that humanity's answer had already been given. No further words were necessary. Their message was clear: Earth would not be cowed. On Earth, preparations had been quietly made for this moment. Humanity had watched and learned from the Council's dealings with other species. They knew the Council would not take no for an answer, but they were prepared for what would come next. Hidden within the shadows of their planetary defenses were technologies and alliances the Council had not anticipated. Earth was not defenseless, nor was it alone. For decades, humanity had been building its strength, waiting for the day when it would need to stand against the galaxy's greatest power. And now that day had come. Earth's leaders had sent their message: not just to the Council, but to the entire galaxy. In a single word, humanity had declared its intent. They would not submit. They would not bow. If the Council wanted war, they would find that Earth was ready. The Council had expected fear, but what they had received was defiance, and in the days to come they would learn just how costly that mistake would be. The Galactic Council's response was swift and predictable. Outraged by humanity's defiance, they voted almost unanimously for retaliation. Within hours of Earth's one-word answer, fleets were mobilized, vast armadas of ships from dozens of species converging on the outer edges of Earth's solar system. To the Council, this was not a war, but an enforcement of order and example to be made of a planet that had dared to reject their authority. Their fleet was immense, larger than anything humanity had ever seen, and it moved with the confidence of a power that had never been challenged. The ships were massive, bristling with weaponry that could tear apart moons, let alone a planet like Earth. For generations, these fleets had subdued rebellious worlds, brought entire systems to their knees, and kept the peace through sheer, overwhelming force. This time would be no different, the Council thought. Earth's refusal would end in fire and submission, just like all the others. As the fleet approached Earth, its leaders issued one final demand: surrender and provide the tribute, or face total annihilation. They expected humanity to reconsider, to grasp the hopelessness of their situation and plead for mercy. But Earth's response remained the same, just as calm, just as certain. No, it was the final straw for the Council. The order was given, and the fleet advanced, weapons primed to unleash destruction upon Earth. What they did not know, what they could not have known, was that Earth had not been idle during its years under the Council's watchful eye. Humanity had been preparing for this day, anticipating the moment when their independence would be challenged, and they had built something the Council had never expected: defenses that could stand against even the mightiest armadas. The first wave of the Council's fleet entered Earth's space, confident in their victory. But as they closed in on the planet, something unexpected happened. Their communications began to falter, their sensors scrambled by strange signals emanating from Earth's surface. At first, they thought it was a simple malfunction, but then the true scale of humanity's preparations became clear. Earth's defense systems, powered by cutting-edge technology reverse-engineered from what little the Council had shared, came online. Shields, far more advanced than the Council had imagined humanity capable of, flared to life around the planet. Weapon platforms, hidden beneath the oceans, on the moon, and in distant orbit, began to target the incoming fleet. Earth's spaceports opened, releasing squadrons of ships smaller and fewer than the Council's armada, but fast, highly maneuverable, and bristling with advanced weaponry. The Council fleet, unprepared for such resistance, hesitated for the first time. Their ships were built for dominance, not subtlety, and their commanders were not used to facing an enemy capable of such coordinated defense. The initial assault, designed to be a swift, overwhelming blow, faltered as Earth's defenses held firm. The Council's ships, once so confident in their superiority, began to struggle as humanity's fleet struck back with pinpoint precision. The humans fought with a level of strategy and adaptability that the Council had never anticipated. Every move the Council made was countered, every tactic met with a clever response. It was as if Earth had studied the Council's methods, dissected their weaknesses, and prepared for every eventuality. The humans fought like a species that had nothing to lose, and in many ways they didn't. This was not just a battle for survival, but for independence, for the right to stand as equals among the stars. As the battle raged on, the Council's fleet suffered more losses than they had ever expected. Their ships, designed for overwhelming force, were ill-equipped to deal with the hit-and-run tactics of Earth's nimble fleet. Every time they regrouped, humanity struck again, exploiting weaknesses in the Council's formations and driving their ships further back. It wasn't just Earth's technology that surprised the Council, it was their resolve. The humans fought with a ferocity that stunned even the most battle-hardened alien commanders. They did not fear the Council's power, nor did they waver in the face of overwhelming odds. Each human ship that fell was replaced by another, each defense that was breached was swiftly repaired. It became clear that humanity had planned for this moment, that they had always intended to defy the Council, no matter the cost. Within hours, what had been expected to be a one-sided slaughter turned into a battle for survival for the Council's fleet. The pride and confidence that had filled the Council's chambers evaporated as reports flooded in of ships destroyed, fleets crippled, and strategies failing. The humans, a species the Council had long considered inferior, were pushing them to the brink. As the tide of battle turned in humanity's favor, some in the Council began to realize the gravity of their mistake. They had underestimated Earth, dismissed humanity as just another primitive race, but now they were paying the price. The humans were not just refusing to submit, they were winning. Back in the Council chambers, panic set in. Representatives from the more cautious species urged immediate withdrawal, warning that further escalation could lead to disaster. Others, more stubborn and enraged by humanity's defiance, demanded reinforcements, insisting that Earth must be made an example. But as the battle dragged on, it became clear that sending more ships would only lead to further humiliation. In the end, the Council was left with no choice but to retreat. Earth's defenses had held, their fleets had fought off the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen, and humanity had stood victorious. The Council, for the first time in its long history, had been defeated by a species they had deemed insignificant. As the remnants of the Council's fleet limped back into deep space, Earth's representative appeared once more on the Galactic broadcast. His expression was unchanged, still calm and composed, as he delivered a final message to the Council. "Let this be a lesson," he said. "Humanity will not bow. We do not seek war, but we will defend ourselves if provoked. We are prepared to live in peace with the rest of the galaxy, but it will be on equal terms. We will never again submit to tyranny. You may be larger, you may be larger, you may be older. But you are not invincible." Humanity has shown that today. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. The defeat at Earth had not just been a military loss, it had been a blow to the very foundation of their power. For millennia, they had ruled through fear, through the certainty that no species could stand against them. But now, the illusion of their invincibility had been shattered by a single word: no. In the days that followed, the Council retreated from Earth's solar system entirely. There were no more demands for tribute, no more threats of annihilation. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through submission, but through defiance. The Council had learned a hard lesson: the humans were not to be underestimated. For Earth, the victory was more than just survival, it was the dawn of a new era. They had faced the greatest power in the galaxy and emerged victorious. No longer would they be seen as a lesser species. The galaxy now knew that humanity was strong, resourceful, and, above all, unbreakable.